So, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining in for the information session on SAT, ACT, and Psat. I am Kishore Ramaraju. I am the host for this session. Some of you know me as a QA manager with HPE. Some of you know me as a founder of Desi Friends WhatsApp group, which got over 12 to 15,000 members across USA. Some of you know me as the owner of Pepon Digital. So I am living in Houston since last 5 years, and in US since last 13 years. Some of you already know that we do conduct sessions on immigration. We do conduct sessions for our community benefit on taxation. We did like a lot of hundreds of sessions since last 3 to 4 years. And I have 2 kids. One of them going to middle school. And most of us, like, even though we are in US since long time since, but still we think like a Desi. We think everything is same here, just like as in India. Either it can be the will and trust, or it can be insurance, or it can be college education. We think everything is same here, but it is not the case. There are a lot of things which are different here. And I thought even, I was not aware like, okay, what is the correct age for students to start preparing on SAT or ACT? Should we wait until high school, or should they start from middle school? Then I thought like, okay, why not have a session and ask subject matter experts to come and help our community. So so we have 2 speakers today. So let me introduce our first speaker, who immediately accepted my request to come and share his experience and share all his valuable knowledge. I know it is a Friday evening, but I see that there are more than 500 parents already joined on the call. So I know how excited, how eager everyone is to know about it, to know more information about SAT, ACT, and Psat. So Kotesh Rao Garu is from IIT Delhi. He is our first speaker. Kotesh Garu has more than 20 plus years of IT experience and 12 years of experience in teaching math. Currently, Kotesh Garu is working as a .NET architect in Houston, Texas. He has also over 10 years of experience in teaching at KT Gideon. He's owner or CEO of that KT Gideon Institute. He teaches Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and he trained thousands of students on SAT, ACT, GMAT, Psat. So I thought like, okay, he's the best person. Like, we have 2 combinations. Today we are talking to one student who achieved a rare feat, getting perfects in both SAT and ACT. And then we have a trainer who trained thousands of students. So I thought this is the best combination. We get both the flavors, one from a trainer, one from a student who got the perfects, who is in Harvard, who is preparing for MCAT, medicine. So I thought like this is the best combo we can get. And so thanks again, Kotesh Garu, for your valuable time. And now I leave it to you. You can we'll start with, so the session is in the lecture mode. So Kotesh Garu will ask or will give all the inputs, and then on behalf of all of you, I will ask questions. So if anyone has any questions, you can text me or WhatsApp me, anything other than generic. Kotesh Garu will cover it, but if you have any specific questions, you can WhatsApp me on 832-867-8808. So I will ask questions on your behalf, because we have over 1,000 participants, and if we open all the lines, there will be a lot of disturbance. So Kotesh Garu.
Yeah, thank you, Kishore Garu. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to welcome everyone and good evening, everyone. My name is Kotesh Ambati, and I'm the director of KT Gideon Math Reading and Writing Center. Okay, so before we jump onto the topic SAT and ACT and details about that, so I just want to give a brief overview about general college admission process, so that we know where this SAT or ACT is going to be part of that. Then it will give you a better idea. That's what I thought. Okay, so in US, if anyone wants to do 4-year degree college, they have certain requirements they have to meet as a part of the admission process. I'll go step by step all the points, and I'll try to be as slow as possible so that it is audible and clear. Okay, the first and very important thing they look into is GPA. So GPA, as you know, it is not CGPA, not till the end of the senior year, but they do take the GPA until the end of junior year, which is the 11th grade GPA. So that is why it's very important that the students have to really plan well in order to get the best possible, the highest possible GPA they can achieve, by end of their junior year. So very few colleges, like top colleges, they do look for the senior year GPA. They're interested in seeing what kind of other courses they're doing in final year. But 90% of the colleges, they look into third year, junior year GPA as part of the admission process. And the second point is, our favorite stuff, which is SAT or ACT score. So SAT or ACT score is a requirement for everyone to apply for the colleges. Okay, it's a requirement. So that's why everybody has to take either SAT or ACT. So we'll talk about that in more detail later. And third point is ranking in the class. So ranking in the class also makes a very big difference, and it plays a major role in some of the colleges, especially for the colleges within the state. They'll have some kind of special considerations. Say, for example, top 10% of, if somebody is there in top 10% of the school, then they're going to get something called auto admission into A&M. And if you see UT Austin, they have top 7% of the people, they're going to give the auto admission. So when I say auto admission, it doesn't mean that the student is going to get whatever the discipline they want, but instead the college is going to offer the seat in the college. That's it. So if he meets the other requirements, then definitely he or she is going to get the expected discipline. Otherwise, it is required that the colleges have to offer other disciplines. Okay, so that's a GPA plays a major role, as well as the ranking in the class as well, besides the SAT score. And this 6% and 10% kind of stuff is going to change from time to time, because this year is the last year for UT Austin, where they're considering up to 7%. From 2019 onwards, it has come down to 6%. So if you ask the reason being that it's just a competition. It's as simple as that. Okay, and the fourth point is the college essays. So each college is expected to write some general essays. And some colleges, especially some top colleges like MIT and other colleges, they also have extra requirements to write their own specific essays. So that's the reason why in senior year, mostly the students are going to be occupied with in writing the essays, because they have to at least apply for 7 to 8 or 10 colleges. So which is a very tedious job. And when you write college essays, most of the stuff is going to be the personalized. So that's why they really have to put a lot of effort in coming up with a proper essay. Because there is a requirement that they cannot exceed certain number of words and all. So it's always challenging to write a very good essay, to project yourself as a unique person in the college. Okay. And the next point is extracurricular activities. So extracurricular activities, so usually every college in US, they want to look into the qualities, like not only the studies point of view, but they also want something like all-rounder. Okay, so not only studies, but they want to see how this particular student is, and has spent the time in high school, in doing the other extracurricular activities. So when I say that, So usually they consider and give a lot of importance to something like Boy Scouts, which is a very reputed stuff. If somebody got Eagle ranking, which is highly reputed, not only for the college entrance, but it carries throughout the year. So it carries throughout the rest of the life as well. And similarly, like other things are there, orchestra, choir, arts, sports. It could be anything, but they really want to see how much time you spent and what is the kind of achievement you made in that particular extracurricular activities. The reason why they see this particular point is, they want to see how the student is putting the effort and dedication towards achieving something in their life. So that's exactly what they want, because when they go to colleges, they're going to see challenging programs, so many elective subjects and all. So they want somebody to be there in their college which should not give up. Okay, so that is one of the points they look into. And next point is, of course, which is easy to get, recommendation letters from teachers and counselors they expect. And the next point is AP courses done during the high school year. So AP courses makes a very big difference, because that shows that the student is capable of handling the courses in college. As you know, AP stands for Advanced Placement. That means those courses offered in the high school itself, and most of the students, they really want to do that. And if they get very good score in AP courses, the advantage is they can complete the college credits if the college accepts that AP course. And second thing is, they also get very good impression when they apply to the colleges. So that is one of the reasons why AP courses plays a major role. And besides that, AP courses are always 5-point credits, so which also contributes towards the GPA. Okay, and the next point they look into is the leadership qualities. So it's not only the GPA, extracurricular, blah, 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 everything, but how good you are in the leadership qualities. So they want to see, did you lead anything, did you lead any group or something like that. So they'll consider all these things. Especially I recommend, there is something called FBLA, which is called Future Business Leaders of America, which is exponentially growing at least from last 4 years in the high schools. It's a very good club, and there are plenty of opportunities where one can join, and then they can build the leadership qualities, communication skills, and everything. So which is one of the better one nowadays. So which is related to leadership qualities. It's not only in FBLA, but anything related to the leadership you do, even, say for example, Boy Scouts. So there you're leading a group of, scouts, so which also comes under leadership. So anything you can do towards leadership, it's going to make a big difference for them. Okay. And the next point they look into is the community service. So community service means, in high school there is a requirement that they have, every student has to do a certain number of volunteering works. Okay, like I think it's 120 hours. Okay, so that volunteering hour is a kind of requirement for high school. But here I'm talking about community service. So they look into the things where besides this volunteering service, the student has done any kind of extra community service. And believe me or not, especially very top colleges, even like MIT, Stanford and all, if someone has done very good community service, by working with any non-profit organizations, and if they prove that they have done very good job, MITs and all, they are going to give the highest priority. So they do, prefer people like that. And the next one is SAT subject test. So SAT subject test is not for all the colleges. Most of the colleges, they really don't need that. It's not a requirement like SAT. But some colleges, again, the top colleges and all, and some other colleges which, say for example, if you're applying for engineering specific college, say University of Berkeley or UCLA kind of stuff, right? So if you're applying for the engineering discipline, they want to see beside SAT score, if you have done or if you have taken the SAT subject test like Math 1 and Math 2, they also give some sort of extra priority. Okay, so that's where these SAT subjects will come into picture. And the other thing is, the various clubs you participated in high school. So, usually almost every high school they they support so many clubs. Usually the club is requested by a student, who actually requests the school to create. And once if the club is there, then there'll be so many other students. If they are interested, they will take part, and they also contribute to the club in many ways. Say for example, most of you already know something like very popular clubs like Science Olympiad and Math Club like Alpha Mu Theta, FBLA, and some schools also offer like robotics. So these are very helpful clubs where you can encourage your children to take part in this. And all the clubs are, the best thing is all the clubs are going to be after school hours, so which is a good thing. So they learn a lot from these clubs, from the other students. Okay. Okay, so I just want to give you this overall picture about the admission process. So there are so many things. If you see these things, there are so many points they're going to look into before somebody got the admission into a college, especially the top level colleges. Okay, so SAT is definitely one of them, but it has got a lot of importance, and that's what we're going to talk about now. Okay. Okay, first of all, what is SAT and ACT? SAT and ACT are nationally recognized standardized tests for the college admissions. Okay, and SAT is actually run by a non-profit organization called College Board. Okay, they started this SAT somewhere around 1950s, and since then it is coming as one of the college accepted tests for admissions. And if you see ACT, that is run by another organization called ACT Incorporation, and I think that started around 1960. But ACT gained momentum in early 2000s. So especially from last like 20 years, ACT also got the higher priority, just like SAT. Okay, and these tests actually from time to time, they will do some kind of modifications in the format and everything in order to make sure that they select the students with the right skills. Okay, so recently 2016 SAT has gone through a very big change in the sense like they changed the complete format that we are going to talk about in a minute. But usually those kind of changes happens very rarely. And there are a couple of reasons which I'm going to talk about later. Okay, and coming to the the goals for SAT and ACT, we really need to understand this. What are the goals of SAT and ACT? So each test measures students' proficiency in various critical skill areas. Say, for example, efficient problem solving. That means how a student can solve a problem accurately and in a very less time. Okay, which is a very important problem solving technique everybody should be aware of and should be able to do it, because when they go to colleges, right, most of the stuff they have to do on their own. When even though the professors are there, they hardly give the information about 20 to 30% of the information, but rest of the 60 to 70% information the students have to understand on their own by reading the other books and resources from internet. So, and when they're doing this process, they really need to understand so many things. So that's where the reading comprehension comes into picture. So besides the efficient problem solving, it is also expected that the student should be very good at reading comprehension. That's why reading comprehension plays a major role in SAT and ACT. Okay. Besides this problem solving and reading comprehension, some of the other goals of this SAT and ACT are data analysis, data extraction, and data interpretation. Okay, as you know, data analysis, data extraction, data interpretation. Once if they see, for example, a chart, right? One should be able to understand what is the chart, what is the information they're given, and what kind of information we can get it from that. So these kind of skills they are going to incorporate in these SAT and ACT. And how they are going to do, in what sections they are going to do, I'm going to give you some more details. But because of these these critical skills are required for college, just because these are necessary for college success. Okay. If you see, even now in any college, if you just go to any college and see the percentage of people passed out, you will see like 90% and 91% kind of stuff. You see very few colleges with 100% passed out in 4 years, because of some kind of challenging things are going to be there in college. So that's the reason why the college always wants the best student, because they want 100%. At least they want to get 90 and above percent, right? So of course there are some students very smart. They were also able to complete in 3 years, but there are some other students from other areas. They were not able to complete within 4 years. So they'll take 5 years or 6 years. Okay, so that's why if somebody is having these kind of skills, it's easy to manage all the courses which are going to be challenging, in the college. Okay, so that is the reason why all the colleges accept SAT and ACT, just because the tests behind the scenes are having these goals. Okay, now we'll see actually what are the differences between SAT and ACT. So just before I proceed, I just want to give you the basic information about the format. So which you'll see in the internet. I know that it's a telecon, but I'll try to minimize the numbers as much as possible, because it'll be over the head for you. But I'll try to give this information as low as possible, because we need to really understand the test format. So that is the whole reason why I'm trying to discuss this area. Okay, if you see SAT.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, this is Apurva calling in.
Hey, Apurva. Thanks, Apurva, for joining in. Please hold on for 10 minutes. So once Kotesh Garu completes the session, then we'll start with your one.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt. I'll wait then. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Bye.
Okay, sorry for that. Okay, so if you see the test format of SAT and ACT, SAT it takes 3 hours without essay, and ACT takes 2 hours 55 minutes. And in both cases, we have optional essay part. So I really want to highlight one point here. So even though it is an optional, essay for both SAT and ACT, it is strongly recommended to go for it, just because most of the colleges, especially the students, whoever is applying for, the medicine side or engineering or MBA kind of stuff, right, or business side, the colleges wants to see how good a student is in writing also, because this essay they have to, just write in maybe just 50 minutes in case of SAT and 35 minutes in ACT. So it's a kind of time constraint, and they give a topic and they see how good they are at writing as well. So my sincere suggestion is to just consider the essay also as part of your SAT and ACT when you are actually registering. Okay, and of course if you see SAT, the main sections are going to be reading, writing and language. In math, we have 2 parts. One is with calculator. One is the other one is with math no calculator. So I'll talk about that in a bit. The difference between those two. And coming to the ACT, we have English, math, reading, and science. So there are 4 parts: English, math, reading, and science. Okay. So if you see, there is no science part in SAT, right? So that also I'm going to discuss in a bit. So okay, okay. I have some numbers here, but those numbers are basically going to tell you, how much time a question is going to be expected to complete in case of SAT and ACT. Okay, so in general, the SAT is going to give a little bit more time compared to the ACT. Okay, say for example, in case of SAT, if you take reading section, if you try to do apple-to-apple comparison, it gives you like 75 seconds per question, whereas ACT, it takes 53 seconds per question. Whereas math, SAT, it's going to give you 75 seconds per question, whereas in math, ACT, it's going to give you 60 seconds per question because you just have 60 questions in ACT. And coming to the writing, SAT, takes an average of 48 seconds per question, whereas ACT is 36 seconds per question. See, this statistics is very, very important. Because we know that ACT, based on these numbers, we understand that ACT is a little bit more time constraint. But please understand that SAT is also time constraint. The only thing is it is relatively a little bit exempt from the time, but it doesn't mean that it's really not time constraint. So both are equally time constraints tests. And the student has to aware of the fact that they should be able to complete the sections within the expected time. Okay. Coming to the scoring, SAT, they have a 400 to 600 score range. That means 800 is for math section and remaining 800 for reading and writing section. Whereas in ACT, it is 36 scale. So they take the average of the 4 sections, math, English, reading, and science, and then they give the score based on 36 range. I think these are the high-level stuff related to the format and the questions they have and everything, and the scoring, how they do it. And very important thing is, and the good news is, in both the tests, there is no negative marking, so which is one way good news, because before 2016, SAT used to have the negative marking, but after 2016 with the new format, they have taken that out. So in the sense, like if a student got stuck with any question, they can have a smart guess, and they can guess the answer. So there is no penalty for any question, whether in ACT or SAT. Okay, now we'll talk about some specifics about these SAT and ACT sections. If you see the ACT, right, we talked about all the sections, and one of the section is science section, which is not there in SAT. But if you see the science section, the purpose of science section is, okay, let me tell you one thing. This is one of the very common question. I came across from so many parents and students also. The moment they see the word science section in ACT, they're scared of that. But that is a total misconception, just because when they say the science section in ACT, they are not expecting any kind of the vocabulary words, any kind of big problem solving questions. It's not like that. The science section, they're actually having the sections related to the science with a very basic knowledge of science, which anyone is having at the middle school level. Okay, but if you ask me, then what is all about this science section, and what is the purpose? The science section is mainly going to have the paragraphs or the questions related to some graphs, or some tables, some charts kind of stuff. Okay, and based on those charts, graphs, and everything, they're going to have the follow-up questions. So the idea behind the scene is, if you just recollect the one of the goal of SAT and ACT, they want to have the data analysis, data extraction, and data interpretation. So they have introduced this science sections with these graphs and everything so that they can achieve that goal. So the whole idea is, if the student is able to read the graphs, charts, or whatever may the pictures they're going to give in the section, and if they're able to extract the data and if they're able to answer the questions accordingly, that's it, it's done. So if you really see at least some of the samples, right, then you understand the easiness. So it's really not the science. Please don't get misunderstanding. It is all about the data analysis and data extraction stuff. Okay, and coming to the SAT, if you ask, okay, if it is there in ACT, then why it is not there in SAT? No, the answer is even SAT is also having the these data extraction and data analysis part. Especially from 2016 format, they have made a big change in their SAT format. So if you see any sample paper of SAT, you will see these bar graphs, charts, and everything throughout math, reading, and writing sections. So that is how they spread across the whole thing. But behind the scenes, they're achieving that goal of data analysis and data extraction. And before 2016, it was not the case. They never had any kind of such questions. So that was one of the reason why they incorporated that in 2006. 2016 new format of SAT. Okay. So please don't get confused with the science section. It's going to be easier. Okay. And coming to this no calculator math section in SAT. So the objective here is, they really want to see how the student is, good in doing very simple math, without doing mistakes. So that is the whole idea about this section. And believe me or not, almost 95% of the questions you can solve even without using paper and pen. Okay, it's so simple. If you are very good at the very basics of pre-algebra and very algebra 1 and all, you don't need to even use the pen and paper. You can solve mentally. So that's how these questions are going to be. Okay, but for some for a few students, it's going to be little bit difficult because they struggle here and there in simple math. For them, it might take a bit time, but they can still solve these problems without any problem. Okay, and other thing is, and one of the major difference in SAT and ACT math is, in 2016 they made a big change, as I said. So the new SAT format is mainly going to focus on algebra. So most of the questions, if you see, they're going to revolve around algebra 1 and partly about algebra 2 also. The reason being, when they, anyone go to college, definitely they're going to deal with algebra somewhere or other. And they have seen so many people who are struggling when they go to college with algebra 1 and especially with algebra 2. So that is one of the reason why, after doing so many surveys and everything, they incorporated and try to have the questions around the algebra 1 and algebra 2. And these questions, if you're really good in algebra 1 and algebra 2, most of the questions you can solve in like 30 to 40 seconds. You don't even need to cross more than 1 minute. So that is how these questions are. Again, it comes with practice and all, but that is how the questions are. And okay, I'll also give one more big difference between the math of SAT and ACT in a bit. But coming to the ACT math, they also focus on algebra, but besides that, they give a little bit more emphasis on geometry and other things like trigonometry and logarithms and matrices also. And I don't think you will ever see matrices in SAT, but definitely it's a part of ACT stuff. You still see the trigonometry, very basic trigonometry in SAT. Again, the same thing is true with ACT also. Okay, that is how it's going to be. But the point is, if you're really good in algebra 1 and 2, SAT is going to be much easier. they give a little bit less emphasis on geometry. Okay. Of course, and one more thing is, besides that, SAT also started focusing on statistics. So you'll also see a few questions related to statistics as well. Okay, and one more difference between the SAT Math and ACT Math is, before that I want to give an example. SAT actually, it's a kind of aptitude test. That means they really want to see how much knowledge a student gained in high school math and how he is applying that knowledge. So it's extra step they really want to test in SAT. Okay, whereas ACT, they really want to see how much knowledge a student gained like throughout high school math. So I'll give you an example. Then it will be more clear and easy to understand. Say for example, in case of ACT, they'll give you a diagram which is a right angle triangle, and they'll give you the two legs information, and they ask you to find out the hypotenuse. So the moment you see the right angle triangle, you think about the Pythagorean theorem, and apply the theorem, you're done. But the same question, if you see how they give in SAT is, a person is started from point O and moved towards north, the 5 miles, and then took left turn and went up to this thing, like that. So basically they give some kind of description of the problem. So in this particular case, the student has to really understand the question and then interpret and then draw the picture. Then he'll come across the point that, okay, this is a right angle triangle. Now the shortest distance between the starting point and ending point is a straight line, so I need to use the Pythagorean theorem. If you see these two problems, both problems are related to the Pythagorean theorem, but the way they give in SAT versus ACT is a big difference. Okay, and again, in ACT, as I said, they really want to see how much knowledge you gained, how much of knowledge you have in math. So in this process, they also want to see how many formulas kind of stuff you really memorized and remembered. So that is the reason why they also give some straightforward application of problems. Say, for example, volume of a sphere, volume of a cylinder kind of stuff. Those formulas you are expected to memorize in case of ACT test, whereas SAT gives very less emphasis on memorizing the formulas. Even if you see the SAT paper, they share some of the formulas and pictures just at the beginning of the paper. So those questions, in case if they give any formula related, those questions can be solved with the help of the formulas they already provided in the paper itself. Okay, but as I said, SAT really want to see how you are applying the knowledge to solve the problem, whereas ACT is basically how much knowledge you gained. It's a big difference. Okay, that's all pretty much at very high level. Like these are the differences. Okay, and one more difference is in SAT the good thing is there are just 4 choices. Okay, for any multiple choice question you just have 4 choices. So there's a great chance that you might end up with the right answer if somebody is guessing at the very end. Okay, whereas in ACT it has got 5 choices, so the probability is a little bit more. These are small differences. Sometimes this makes a very big difference. Okay, and in case of SAT, there is something called grid-in math questions. That means these are the questions, they are not going to have any multiple choices. So the student is expected to solve the question and expected to get the exact answer. Or sometimes some questions are there where they'll have a range of answers. They can give any of the answer. But the point is, for these questions, they are not going to have any multiple choices. So this is where they'll really try to catch the students. So if you're, as per my experience, I've seen so many papers. They are really not very complicated questions. So they give very basics, and if you're real smart, if you do very good practice in math, you should be able to solve them. I'm pretty sure you should be able to get the right answers also without any problem. Okay, these are very simple. I think as far as I know, there are like total 13 questions in the combinedly with no calculator section and calculator section also. Okay. Okay, now like so far, I was just mentioning about only math, right? So you have a question, okay, what happened to reading and writing? So the big change they brought in SAT from 2016 is mainly about math, because mostly if you take any course, right, the math is directly or indirectly involved. So that is the whole reason they brought so many changes. But of course, reading is also challenging, and they want to make sure they have the up to mark standards. If you see the reading questions, right? In case of SAT, it's pretty straightforward. So all the questions are going to be in the chronological order. That means one after other. So if somebody has already answered the question number 3, in order to get the fourth question answer, they don't need to go above that. So they can still, they can go to the rest of the passage and try to find the answer. But whereas in case of ACT, it's a tricky thing. So the questions are going to be assembled in a random fashion. So that means if the question 3 is answered, to answer the fourth question, the student might have to go at the beginning also. So that is, the challenge part of reading in case of ACT. Okay. These are small things, but makes a big difference. And these are the things the students really have to understand and come up with the strategies, understand the strategies, how to handle these kind of questions, and do a lot of practice. That is going to help them a lot and get the good scores. Okay, and in general, the good thing is, in this country, there's a lot of, I would say, the flexibility is there. So if you see the SAT and ACT, they actually conduct 7 times a year, which is really good thing. That means, so you have, so many chances. You can plan well ahead of the game and see when you can take the test, and then you can give it, if not the second time kind of stuff. So if you see ACT and SAT, they conduct 7 times a year at different dates. So this information is very helpful for plan to take the SAT and ACT test. So my advice is, if obviously everyone has to give the SAT and ACT, but please remember that try to avoid taking these tests in the month of May or December. The reason being that in the month of May and December, you will be ending up with your semester exams, which is going to contribute towards your GPA. So that's why the planning is very important when you take SAT and ACT, which are not going to give any kind of conflict with the semester tests which are going to happen in May or December. Okay, so yeah, these are the major things. We can talk about so many other things, but at very high level, those are the big differences between ACT and SAT. So now I think it's a time to talk about the PSAT also. So maybe most of you also know about PSAT. So I just want to touch base with the PSAT, how this PSAT is going to come into picture. PSAT is a preliminary SAT. Actually, that is used to assess student academic progress, and it's going to determine the eligibility for National Merit Scholarship Competition. So all of a sudden, I'm bringing National Merit Scholarship Competition and all for PSAT. So it's very interesting and very helpful, for scholarships. So there is a organization called National Merit Scholarship Corporation. So what they do is they take they take the PSAT, which is conducted by the college board, okay, and the scores whatever the students are going to get, are going to have some kind of standard cutoffs. So once if they got selected, their main objective is to really identify the academic merit of talented students and give some scholarships to encourage for the higher studies. So that is the goal of National Merit Scholarship Corporation. Okay. So during this process, they actually work closely with College Board in order to conduct the PSAT test. So College Board conducts the PSAT test every year in the second week of October. Okay, excuse me. Okay, so if you see this PSAT, right, about 1.5 million to 1.6 million high school juniors, take this test every year in the second week of October. Out of these 1.5 million high school juniors, they will have the first round of cutoff to about 50,000 people. Okay, 50,000 students are going to be selected in the first round. They are called semi-finalists, and once if they got selected, right, the National Merit Scholarship Board is going to conduct some more extra tests and everything behind the scenes, like throughout the rest of the year. And finally, what they do is they select just close to 7,500 students, and they announce them as national finalists. So once if anybody got, that national finalist, it has got so many advantages. One thing is they'll get so much of scholarship, from so many colleges. Second thing is that honor is going to carry throughout the rest of the life. So anywhere you go and say, hey, I'm a national finalist, it's going to be like treated like anything. So it has got so much of importance. So that is the reason why I thought like I'll just discuss about PSAT also. It's mainly for the scholarships, and there's a great reason why every student has to consider very seriously about that. Okay. Okay, and I'll give an example. Suppose if somebody is like a national finalist or even semi-finalist, there are cases where the students have got full ride for tuitions, room, board, and on top of that they also got stipends. So just imagine that nowadays if you take any private college or a college outside the city, outside the state, it's going to cost you close to $50,000 a year. So that means you can save close to $200,000 for the whole, for all the 4 years. So so PSAT has a lot of importance. So please give a lot of value and importance to PSAT besides the SAT also. Okay, so the good news is because these two are related, the good news is PSAT is a shorter form of SAT. Okay, so which makes easier for the student, because it is only just 2 hours and 45 minutes time it takes. And another thing is there is no essay involved. So if the student is prepared well for math, reading, and writing, and if they're aware of if they're aware of the format of PSAT, they should be able to perform well in PSAT also. And second thing is PSAT is mainly for scholarships. Okay, so whereas SAT is for college admissions. Okay, PSAT does not have essay, and also some content in math which is not there. PSAT you can think like it's a subset of SAT. So there are some portions like algebra 2 kind of concepts and all which are not part of not within the scope of PSAT. So which is a good news. So if you seriously prepare and put a lot of effort and focus on PSAT, there's a great chance that you might be a semi-finalist or finalist. Okay, and PSAT actually, as I said, it's going to be administered once a year in every second week of October. Schools actually give an opportunity for all the sophomore students, that means 10th grade students, also to appear for PSAT in the 10th grade. But the thing is, the score whatever they get in 10th grade is not counted towards the scholarship. So that one, the one whatever they're giving in 10th grade is considered like a practice test. So that's a good opportunity for you to see where you are and what are the gray areas you still have to pick up and get the good score. So once if you got the score from school for the PSAT in 10th grade, so which is a starting point for you to really plan ahead of the game to see how best you can do in the 11th grade, because the one which you're giving in the 11th grade, the PSAT is going to is going to be counted towards the scholarship. Okay, so you have just one chance, which is given in 10th grade, and make use that chance properly, and then try to do your best. Okay, and the one you give in 10th grade, which is usually supported by the school, so you don't need to even pay, and it happens during the school year. Okay, so now if you see SAT, ACT, and PSAT, right? If you really plan well ahead and have serious preparation for SAT, that means it is automatically covering the PSAT. So you don't need to really spend extra time for the PSAT. Other than that, you just take some practice tests, you should be good to go. So that's why SAT plays a major role, not only for SAT college admissions, but it also helps in PSAT stuff. Okay, and that's all pretty much. So these are the three things, like SAT and PSAT and ACT, how they're related, and the differences between these two format, the major differences between SAT and ACT we talked about. But some of the parents, they come and ask me, hey, Kotesh, we have SAT and ACT. Which test is better for my child? Can you just tell me so that I'll focus only on the test? Okay, which is a very common question. But if you see the new format of SAT and and ACT, they're almost like in line. So before 2016, the format of SAT and the expectation of SAT is it's almost like away from ACT. But the new format of SAT is almost in line with ACT, because behind the scenes, all the objectives are meeting together, but in a different format. So the good thing is, and what I strongly recommend is, I want you to prepare for SAT, so that covers at least 50 to 60% preparation of ACT, and of course 100% preparation of PSAT. So that's exactly what I started recommending after 2016 onwards. Okay, so if you do like that, the good thing is you can attempt both SAT and ACT also. So whatever the score you get, the better one, you can apply to the colleges accordingly. Okay. And second thing is, some people ask me when to start preparing for SAT and ACT, right? Obviously, the simple answer is hardly the best, but I want to give some suggestions here. Most of your children they might got selected for Duke Tip, right, which happens in 7th grade. I would say that because anyway your child is going to attempt the SAT or ACT in 7th grade after getting the invitation from Duke Tip. Okay, so please take that as a starting point, and take that point as a starting point, and moving forward, try to give some kind of maybe every 2 weeks or once in a month. Help your child or encourage your child to just focus on SAT or ACT stuff, so that they'll be in touch base with that. So at least by end of 9th grade, if they keep doing like this from 7th grade onwards, at least they'll be very well ahead of the game compared to so many other students. And I'm pretty sure they can also set some kind of targets. Say for example, I want to score at least 1450 by end of 9th grade, right? And in SAT, and I want to set a target score as 31 in ACT by end of 9th grade. So if you encourage your children to set the targets by end of 9th grade, right, starting from 7th grade onwards, which is like almost 2 years, so which is doable, right? By end of 9th grade, they're almost ahead of the game, and they're very close to the end race, so which is close to 1600 and then 36, right? But in order to reach that rest of the 1500 points in SAT and the rest of the 5 points in ACT, it's going to be challenging, because they might need some extra concepts in math, or they might need some kind of extra knowledge in English kind of stuff that they're going to gain in the high school. So in that way, it's going to help them a lot, to achieve the rest of the knowledge and practice more in those areas, and then they should be able to achieve closest to the perfect, or should be able to achieve very good scores in SAT and ACT. Okay, so my recommendation is start from 7th grade once if they start from Duke Tip. Okay, and if you ask me, hey Kotesh, if they're starting from 7th grade, how can they understand the high level math and everything, right? So there are some resources are there, free resources like Khan Academy. Most of you might be knowing that. So that's a very good resource. I would strongly recommend because it has come up with a very good structure of all the contents of SAT, because Khan Academy closely works with College Board, and they also include all the videos. So without your knowledge, you can just the students can really understand those videos easily, and they can gain the knowledge, whatever they really want to. Say, for example, matrices, right? So most of it's very easy, adding and subtracting, all the matrices and everything, right? But if they go to Khan Academy, once the child understand that, it's going to be easy for them, and they can solve the questions in ACT kind of stuff. So that is how I encourage, I suggest people to go ahead and build their knowledge. And I don't know, it's not only middle school, but I want to give extra information here. Duke Tip, actually some of the parents asked me, like, hey Kotesh, how do we, how my child is going to get the eligibility for Duke Tip? The Duke Tip, they're going to select the students, or send the invitations for the students who got 90% and above, either in 5th grade, the final test, or in 6th grade. So the student has got 2 years of chances. So please encourage your students, like children, to make sure that at least, they get very good scores in STAR test, above 90s and everything. Even if they get one test above 90, they are eligible for a Duke Tip invitation. So it's a great opportunity. Okay, so that's all pretty much. And so as the resources for SAT, definitely I would go for the official SAT study guide and Khan Academy. And one more thing is, in College Board, actually they have very good resource there, where if your child subscribes for that email, they'll get a daily question to their inbox. So which is a really good thing, because the questions the coming from College Board is basically prepared by the actual test makers. So it's a great opportunity for your child to start working with SAT related questions on daily basis. So if you think like that, at least for all 5 days in a week, they're going to 5. In a month, they're going to get at least 20 questions. So these 20 questions are very valuable, because they're coming from the real test makers, so which will help the child a lot. So I strongly suggest to go and register there. Of course, for the ACT, the official ACT prep guide is there, and there are so many other resources in internet. You can also go for it. I think that's all pretty much. If you still need more information, you can contact me. I'll be glad to help you out. But in conclusion, prepare for SAT as early as possible. Then you are ready for PSAT and ACT. Okay, and more than all, the student really need to do a lot of practice. So practice is the only solution to get very good score, whether it's SAT, PSAT, or ACT. So that's all pretty much I have. And I wish you all the best for the children from my side and from our KT Gideon team. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kotesh Garu. That's a lot of useful information. You covered like nearly from the scratch, from when they should start, what are the differences, everything. So that's a lot of useful info. And for the benefit of all the participants, I'm recording the session, so don't worry that you are getting a lot of inputs, lot of information. So I will share the recording with each of the participants here. So yeah, and you have a lot of questions, Kotesh Garu, but let us first talk with Apurva before we get on to the questions based on the interest of all the audience. If they want to get on for more time after Apurva session, or we can do one more session later. Before Apurva talks, I would like to give a quick introduction about Apurva. So I am so proud as a family friend. I am so proud of Apurva's achievements, and I know how happy her parents, my family friends, Sanjeev Rao Garu, Kanneganti Sanjeev Rao Garu, who is an IT professional at Memphis, and Tirumala Devi Kanneganti Garu, who is a professor at St. Jude's Research Hospital. I am sure because I hope every one of you know that only 0.02% of students will secure perfect score in SAT, whereas only 0.06 of ACT aspirants get a perfect score. Whereas Apurva achieved, which is really a rare feat. I don't know, she must be the first Telugu girl, or we all as Indians. It is a proud moment for all of us to be to say that okay, Apurva is from India. So Apurva is born in Hyderabad. She moved to US when she was just 2 years old. So I am changing from lecture mode to I request everyone to give a big round of applause to Apurva. Let's give a big round of applause.
Mute everyone.
Okay. So yeah, on behalf of you, I'm asking questions. I will also give applause. I know every one of you are proud of Apurva's achievement. So on behalf of you, I am giving the applause to Apurva. Apurva, we all are proud of you. And yeah, now it's your turn. So share your experience. Share when you started preparing for SAT, ACT, what tips you have in addition to preparing, what all you did. So yeah, and Apurva was seriously preparing for MCAT, but but just because of our request, she took time to talk to all of us. She's busy with family functions, preparation, all those things, but she wanted to share her experience with our community. So thanks again, Apurva. Thanks to Sanjeev Garu, Tirumala Garu for all your support and time. Yeah, Apurva, it's over to you.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure and honor to address everyone here today. So for a quick introduction about myself, my name is Apurva Kanneganti. I am going to be a junior in college. I attend Harvard University in Boston, and I am a chemical biology major, and I am planning on going to medical school, which is, as Tushar Uncle said, I'm taking the MCAT next week, actually. So this is a welcome break from studying for that. And I guess in terms of ACT and SAT preparation, I think Kotesh Garu covered a lot of the things that go into preparing for it. In terms of my personal experience, I would say that one of the things that I think helped me the most was that I took advantage of the fact that you can take these tests multiple times and you can choose to report what scores you want to. So something that I did was that my freshman year, I think it was the summer after my freshman year, I went ahead and I took both tests. I had, as part of the Duke TIP program, I had taken the SAT back in the 7th grade, and I'd used that as kind of a judgment call to see where I was performing, what areas I was stronger in. But my freshman summer, I took the ACT, and then the fall of my sophomore year, I think it was the October, I took the SAT. And luckily, based off of previous preparation and things, I did fairly well at those points. But having just the experience of taking those tests, I was able to hone in on my weaknesses and work more on those and kind of tailor my studying towards that. So I do advocate that people take kind of a diagnostic ACT or SAT, as I would say, and really tailor studying towards things that you need more help with. Because if you naturally are good at math, but you struggle a little more with reading, then you'd be wasting your time if you didn't take a diagnostic and realize, hey, I'm good at math, maybe I should spend more time looking at reading comprehension strategies. things like that.
Apurva, can you please speak a little louder or?
For sure.
Yeah.
Is this better?
Yeah, much better. Yeah.
Okay, yes. So just to rephrase the last part of what I said, I would say taking a diagnostic test, preferably freshman year, would be a good way to judge where you're at in terms of different subjects, what you're better at. And from that point, you should really start tailoring your studying specifically. So after that point, I would say that maybe you can take sophomore year off and maybe not take an actual exam until maybe junior year if you don't feel ready. But I would definitely say take both of them early so you can assess your weaknesses and strengths. And one other general topic of advice that I think a lot of people would benefit from is that developing really good reading and reading comprehension skills are really important for both exams, simply because a lot of it has to do with how fast you can read passages or how fast you can analyze the material found in them. And one thing that had really helped me that was honestly a lifestyle choice was that I grew up just reading a lot of very big, thick books. And because of that, I just developed good reading comprehension skills from a very early age. And I know a lot of other students in our community do read a lot, which is definitely something that will help us. So I would say that if you or your child you're not in the habit of reading often now, I would say that starting to get more into just reading books in general. They don't have to be massive nonfiction books. Even fiction is fine, but just getting in the habit of reading will help in order to increase your reading comprehension levels and also increase your speed. So one thing that definitely helped me a lot is that I was able to pick up speed reading skills over the years. And by being able to read fast, that really did help me a lot in terms of having time left to check passages at the end and go and make sure I was going back through my answers. Because something that I had noticed from my classmates when we talked about taking the exams was that for the people who were slower at reading, they just didn't have the time to just go back and catch even the little careless errors that we accidentally do, maybe marking the wrong choice or misinterpreting a question. But because I was able to read through all the passages and read through all the answer choices faster, it gave me the extra time at the end to make sure, go back, read through everything at least once more, and double check that I hadn't made any careless errors. So I would say that those are my two major general strategies. Something else is that I really do advocate taking time tests, especially as you're getting closer to when you're actually going to take the exams for the score, simply because I know it's easier just to sit there and just take the exam casually and not in a timed serious setting, but sometimes having that time crunch can make us act differently than we would do if we were taking it more in a more relaxed manner. So I would really advocate, once you've got some basic studying out of the way, to go to the library or go somewhere quiet, just set up a timer and time yourself on the sections exactly as you would on the day of the test. Because you can find that if you were practicing casually, yes, you're getting through all the math and you're doing really well. But once you get down to the time crunch, you might not be doing as well. And that's when you can start strategizing about certain just tips or tricks that could help you get through calculations or things faster. So I would say the combination of these three things, taking a diagnostic, developing good reading comprehension and speed reading skills, along with timing, paying strict attention to timing yourself, were the three strategies that really helped me the most when I was studying for these tests in high school.
Do you want to add anything else, Apurva, or shall I? So there are a few questions for you, and also just for everyone's information, we got 1,204 participants, so we know that everyone is so excited to hear your tips and Kotesh Gar's suggestions. So on a Friday evening, that's a huge excitement among parents and kids. So they all are thankful to you, Apurva and Kotesh Garu. So
for sure.
Apurva,
I think you can probably just go ahead and ask me any questions that people have. That might be best.
Sure, Apurva. So one of the questions is, it will be great if Apurva can explain a bit about her Harvard application experience As you know, thousands of students get perfect scores, but only very few of them get into Harvard.
Mm-hmm. So for my college experience process, Harvard had been my dream college, so I knew that I wanted to apply early. And so Harvard and some of the other Ivy League schools have something called early action, where the decision isn't binding. So there's other private schools that have early decision, which means that if you're admitted, you must attend. But Harvard and Yale and I think Columbia, I'm not exactly sure, and the other schools have EA, which means that if you did get in, you could potentially say no in case you got like a full scholarship elsewhere or other things. But I knew that I really wanted to go to Harvard, so I applied early. And luckily, I was honored enough to get in early. So that meant that I essentially didn't end up applying anywhere else because I knew that Harvard was where I wanted to go. So I luckily was done with the process in December itself, which was great for me because it really did save a lot of stress and time. And in terms of more details about just like the application process, so as part of like any college application, you have to fill out the Common App. And the Common App goes to a lot of schools. Most of them, I think Texas has a different system, along with some of the California schools have like a slightly different system. But everyone is going to be applying to Common App schools. And as part of the Common App application, there's lots of details you have to fill out about the classes you've taken, your extracurriculars, and essentially just provide like almost a CV-esque description of everything you've done thus far. And along with that, you have to write a Common App essay. So this essay goes out to all of the schools that you're submitting your Common Application to. There's other supplements that are school-specific, but this Common App essay is something that is very important because it is essentially like the first portrayal of yourself that any college will see. So one thing that I made sure to do was to start on my Common App essay very early. Because, I mean, even though good test scores and good GPAs are really important, especially because the college admissions process here is so holistic, they really look at every aspect of the student when they come in. And the most personal part of the applicant that they see is this essay. So having a strong essay that really addresses like your specific strengths and your unique qualities that set you apart from other students is something that's really important to do. And it's also something that will take a lot of time. Like this essay isn't something that you can just do overnight and expect it to be perfect. So what I had done was the summer before my senior year, I had already gone ahead and started drafting this essay. And by the time I started school, my first week of senior year, I had a complete draft that I went around and I gave to two of my English teachers who I really liked. And I mean, the reason why I chose English teachers was because they have experience with essay writing and things like this. But I chose these two teachers who I really trusted, and I was like, would you please like just take a look at this and give me some advice? And that really did help me because I actually ended up trashing most of my first draft and rewriting it completely. But I really do think that my essay was a very strong part of my application. And also something else that needs to start early is that aspect of recommendation letters. So as part of the Common App, you submit recommendation letters from various high school teachers. You are required to have two teachers, I think, at least when I applied. You had to have two high school teachers. And you could also request letters from other mentors, like anyone you've worked with, done internships with, or done volunteering with. But I also was able to just get in really early and I asked both of my teachers the first week of school, senior year, because I had already had them my junior year. And so I'd built up a good relationship with them. Like one of them was also as a sponsor of a club that I was in charge of. And because of that, I had really strong relationships and I was on their list early, which means that they weren't rushed to write a really good recommendation letter for me because I asked 2 weeks before they had to send it in. I asked them in August and I told them, you're going to have to submit this in October, so you have 2 months. But this is what I would like you to talk about. And that's also something that's really important. In the last part of the application process, and something that I think really helped my Harvard application was actually the interview. So for a lot of private schools, I don't think public schools do this as frequently, but a lot of your private schools, especially the Ivies, have an interview portion of the application, which is where they have alumni living in your area come out and usually they try to personally face-to-face interview you. If a face-to-face interview doesn't work out, they have a Skype interview. But this interview is also where they can see like the actual person behind all of these scores and other like extra markers. They really get to see and engage with the person. So making sure you nail that interview is something that's really important. So that's something that I would honestly really practice for. Like there's just certain like interview questions that people always ask. Like, I mean, one of the hardest questions usually is like, why do you want to go to this college? Because sometimes you're like, you need to think about like, why do you actually want to go to a specific place? And for me, like, because I had visited Harvard and I really knew like things about it, I was able to talk at length about that. And also just other questions about like, what are your most favorite extracurriculars? Like, what do you think what do you think was a defining part of your high school career thus far? Like going through other questions like that. I know at certain schools, like counselors do mock interviews. If your school doesn't have like a mock interview system set up, you should just go ahead and talk to your counselor and be like, would you mind just mock interviewing me? Or if you don't want to ask your counselor, you can also ask teachers who you're comfortable with because they've seen a lot of students go through. So just having a mock interview as well is really important. And yeah, I would say that these, like the essay, recommendation letters, and interviews are all like aspects that are definitely considered along with GPA and SAT scores. And the combination of all of these is what will get you into a really good school.
Cool, Apurva. Thank you. The second question is like, how does one go beyond Kaplan, and how does Apurva prepared for it on a daily basis, and what are the tools she used?
What was the first part of the question? I'm sorry.
How does one go beyond Kaplan? Kaplan.
Okay. So I'm by this I mean I think you just mean like the general like testing companies. So I would say that one thing that I did was that I didn't just stick to one specific company. So I remember when I was studying for the ACT and SAT, I had Kaplan and Princeton review books, along with other, like, I think McGraw-Hill also had some sort of, like, practice questions and et cetera. And I really do think that getting as many of these resources as you can with, of course, like, financial constraints is important, especially practice tests. Even if you only choose, like, Kaplan material or Princeton review material in terms of what they go over in questions, I would say just gather as many practice questions as you can. And of course, like Kotesh Garter said, the most important practice materials are those that actually come from the source. So I took the pre-2016 SAT, so I'm not sure what practice materials are available now, but I know when I was taking it, they had something they called the Big Blue Book, which was what the College Board put out for the SAT. And in that, they had a lot of like passage-based questions along with full-length practice tests, and that's definitely really important. And the ACT also has an equivalent that's put out by their testing company. So making sure that you use those as like your most valuable resources. I would try to gather as many other resources as you can. And I would also say that luckily for a lot of these tests, like the curriculum that you have in school is very similar. Like what you do in your pre-algebra class, what you do in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, trigonometry, are all things that show up on the math. And for the reading and the writing and other sections, a lot of that has to do with skills that you gain in English class, or also, like I was saying earlier, like just reading skills that you pick up outside of class. So for those, like I know one strategy that like I saw recommended was like trying to read like The Economist or Wall Street Journal or other like very kind of erudite types of reading material, because that helps build your reading comprehension and making sure that you can understand any like dense and heavy passages. So I would say that try to gather as many testing company materials as you can, but also just make sure you realize that there's just day-to-day things that can also help you prepare for these exams.
Are there any websites you followed for this test, Apurva?
I would say I can't think of any in particular now, especially because unfortunately since I did take the pre-2016 SAT, a lot of that has changed. I mean, because that was out of 2,400, and as we were talking about earlier, like a lot of the things have changed. I would say that there's also other websites that offer like ACT question of the day, SAT question of the day, and subscribing to a few of those would always be good because, again, while the actual like companies' questions are the most relevant, any other like testing companies or their material also is helpful. And I would really say signing up for that as early as you can is just a good thing to do, because the question a day is not going to take much of your time, even if you are an 8th grader or a 9th grader who might not be ready to test fully yet. It's still something that you can kind of build up daily practice towards.
Okay, cool. So just for information of all the participants, we'll close at 10 CST. I'm getting a lot of questions, but yeah, I know it's a Friday night, and I don't want to take much time of Kotesh Garu or Apurva or even any of you. So what we'll do is we'll try to or we'll discuss until 10, and then you all can send me a message on 832-867-8808 with your name and email address. So I will send the recording. And also, whatever questions I got, I will send it to both Apurva and Kotesh Garu, and they will compile the answers, and we'll send the answers for all your questions which we cannot answer, and then also the recording from today's session. I repeat my number, 832-867-8808. Next two questions are for Kotesh Garu. How much engineering academy or medical academy matters? Fort Bend ISD has these academies.
Hello?
Yeah, Kotesh Garu.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Repeat the question. Sorry.
How much engineering academy or medical academy matters? Fort Bend ISD has these academies.
I don't know what is the context they're asking for.
Okay. Then let me go to the next question.
Sir, I'm not aware of those things.
Yeah. Then let's go to the next one. How many times can a student take SAT and ACT? My son is a junior and taking his first one tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, as such, there is no hard and fast rule, like how many times you take, but it's always good to take, as minimum times as possible, because especially if someone is targeting for Ivy League colleges and all, it also matters how many times a student appeared for SAT or ACT. So the best bet is, in case if you're preparing for both SAT and ACT, I suggest first maybe you can choose SAT, and if you get a good score, just keep it aside and then try for ACT. And if you really get good score in one of them or both of them, you're good to go. So that from the college point of view, you still gave only one time in SAT and one time in ACT, which is good. But other way around, if somebody is focusing only on SAT, either not 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, it's not a good idea. At least as a thumb rule, don't try to go beyond 3 times. Of course, most of the colleges, they don't even care. Say, for example, even UT, Austin, and all, they really don't ask how many times you gave and send me all the 3 times. But especially if somebody is targeting for Ivy League and all, so it's better to limit the number of stuff. Number of attempts.
Yeah, thanks, Kotesh Garu. Next question is for Apurva. Again, which grade is a good time for students to start preparing for SAT, ACT?
Mm-hmm. So I guess what I would say is that with my experience, a lot of the Ivies actually also don't look at how many times you've taken it. The only one I can think of off the top of my head is Yale. I know for Harvard, we only submitted the individual SATs or ACTs we wanted to send in. So I would again say that, like Kotesh Garu was saying earlier, starting with the tip is a good way. That's going to be around the 7th grade, 8th grade time is a good time to actually start preparation. I would say that reading comprehension is something that you can start working on from when children first start to read, honestly. So that's something that can be built up through elementary and middle school. Just encouraging a lot of reading, and especially reading good literature. And I know teachers always have lists of good books to read, especially age level appropriate and also higher grade levels. So reading is something that can be worked on from a very early point. In terms of actual test-based preparation, I would say that 7th or 8th grade is a good time to start with that. And then again, freshman year, towards the end of freshman year or beginning of sophomore year, take a diagnostic and then you can start tailored preparation throughout sophomore year, and then try to get your good score junior year, so you have that ready in time. Of course, if you do need to attempt it once or twice more, you can go into senior year, but sometimes that can interfere with applying early to colleges. So I would say trying to have it wrapped up junior year is a good game plan.
Cool. Thanks, Apurva. Next one again to you. How much does volunteer hours during high school years matter for your admission?
I would say that volunteering does matter a lot, especially in terms of more private colleges. I think they look at that a little bit more, simply because volunteering really they look at that in terms of community service. So that in the realm of community service, that shows how involved you are with what's going on around you, and also just has a scope for leadership. So volunteer hours is definitely something that's very important. But I would also say that getting 5 hours here, 5 hours there, 5 hours there from 20 different organizations isn't the best way to do it. So I would say getting involved with school service organizations is a really good way. I know in my high school we had National Science Honor Society and Beta Club and various organizations that required service hours. So you can put all of those events under that category, and that's very helpful. And another way, one thing that really helped me was that, I'm from Memphis, and I was part of the Telugu Association of Memphis, the youth committee. I headed that my junior through senior year of high school. And as part of that, I was able to organize a lot of cultural service activities, along with just more traditional soup kitchen events, and also just things that we did for the community. And by having that as part of the Telugu Association, and then having me as the head of the committee, both showed leadership, showed the fact that I was culturally aware and in contact with my culture, and also helped get in those service hours. So I would definitely say that is something that you really should focus on.
That's a great suggestion, Apurva. I think we can take one last question before we close the call. Should the students be, okay, I will take this one. For SAT, ACT, should the student be focusing more on some subjects like algebra, geometry, grammar, more than others within mathematics or English?
Who is this one for me, or?
Yeah, you can answer. You are the right person.
You can answer.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say that, again, this really depends on the person. So I feel in our, especially in the Indian community, I feel math is something that's really encouraged from a young age. I know a lot of students are involved in Kumon or Mathnasium or iLevel or different sorts of math tutoring-based things from when they're at a very young age. So from just my general experience, it seemed a lot of kids from our background seem to struggle a little bit more with reading, because that was something that, reading comprehension wasn't something that was as emphasized as they'd grown up. Meanwhile, kids generally just tended to do better in math even without a lot of practice. But of course, that isn't a standard rule, and I really do think it varies from person to person, which is, again, why I really do advocate taking some sort of diagnostic test to see what you're good at and what you need to work on, because, again, that is something that's very personal.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I see that it is 10 CST. I don't want to take more of your time, Apurva or Kotesh Garu. So once again, thanks a lot, Apurva and Kotesh Garu. Kotesh Garu is from KT Gideon. Apurva, we all wish you all the best. I'm sure you will definitely get the same sort of achievement with your MCAT also. And
Thank
I
you.
repeat, everyone, thank you. I repeat, everyone, that if you want the recording or the answers for the remaining questions, please send me a message on 832-867-8808, and I will share the recording of the session along with the answers for the remaining questions which we cannot answer today. Let me put it on unmute, so if people want to thank, or they can.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for the information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for the information. Hola. Thank you.
Good luck, Apurva.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks to the organizer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for organizing.
Thank you.
Go. Hello?
Thanks everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Bye.
Thank you.
Adios, amigos. No, you are. Bye-bye, bro.
No Spanish here.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for the information.
¿Cómo estás?
Your mom.
Mira, hablo español.
Thanks, Kotesh Garu. Thanks again, and have a great weekend, Kotesh Garu. That was a great session.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
Kotesh Garu.
Right. Bye.
Bye. Good night.